Hey guys, welcome back to Archetype Builds. So, enormous Playtest 7 deep dive video out on the channel today. I'm going to be reacting to it. So, funny story, I was going to catch the premiere and react to it live as it was coming out, but I wanted the ability to stop and start it and, kind of give my commentary, right, to make this an interesting video. So, I was waiting for the premiere to end and waiting and waiting and waiting. Guys, I think this video is an hour longer than the last one they did with the same like Jeremy to interview. So buckle up. It's going to be a long one today. I am not going to show the whole video. I do not want my video to be, 2.5 hours long. I'm just going to capture sort of the note that I'm reacting to and then my reactions. And we are going to get through these announcements. So let's get into it.
So in Unearthed Arcana for the Player's Handbook, this is number 7, we are returning to the classes that were featured in UA 5.
Ooh.
So that's the Fighter, the Barbarian, the Sorcerer, the Warlock, and the Wizard, and now making revisions to those classes based on the feedback we got on UA 5. Right.
That is a pretty quick turnaround. I think the experts had what, 3 Unearthed Arcanas in between the revision of the experts and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good turnaround. This is what happens when you get the big packets, right? We're doing every other of the classes.
A new subclass in the Barbarian called the Path of the World Tree. It's very cool. And also a brand new subclass in the Fighter called the Brawler.
Yeah.
And these two...
God, this brawler sounds like a barbarian subclass. Path of the World Tree. Are they doing Vikings the day after I released a Viking build? Seriously? Wizards. Is that going to be like a nature... Okay, well, I guess we'll see in the packet. But interesting choice, I think.
Are really fun subclasses. One of them, the Brawler, is all about being a fighter who specializes in improvised weapons and unarmed strikes. This is the fighter who might spend more time clobbering people with chairs than with conventional weapons. And we think people are going to have a ball with it. And then
a brawl with it. Come on, Jeremy.
Is a barbarian
right there
that delves into the cosmic story of D&D, that there is this world tree that actually connects all worlds, and this barbarian, when they rage, taps into the power of that tree. And one of the I think iconic things for this subclass is being able to summon up the roots of the world tree to pull people toward the barbarian. I like to think of people...
it is a good mechanic. It's great. It's just the pitch was so, like, the world tree connects all worlds. And, like, I remember seeing that was, like you can travel the roots of the world tree, like, to different planes. And I was like, is this going to be an extra planar barbarian? Is this going to be someone who's summoning? And he's like, and then you can summon. And I was like, you can summon creatures from other planes? That's so awesome. It's just some roots to pull them forward. But, yeah, that's a good mechanic. Maybe don't hype it up as much as you're doing.
Delve into the new weapon mastery system and take some of those properties and apply them to this table leg or that poker from next to the fire.
That's going to be fun with that expertise, yeah.
Or this broken bottle. The Brawler is all about taking things in the environment or the Brawler's own body and using those things as weapons.
That's right.
Sorry. Are you telling me that the fighter will get weapon masteries on unarmed strikes before the monk will? Why not just cut the monk class, Just go ahead. You guys don't seem to like it very much, so why not? You could just cut it. We'll figure something out. That's super cool, though. I am really looking forward to digging into these subclasses. That was both sound like great ideas for subclasses.
But what we have found is that while those lists worked very well for certain classes, for instance, it was a big boon for the Ranger to gain access to the entire Primal list, we have found that for other classes, shifting to those big lists tended to dampen their identity. For example, the wizard, a big part of their identity in the game is having the biggest spell list in the game.
Right.
And by multiple classes now essentially sharing the wizard's...
So we've seen this before. Am I crazy to say that, like, the spell lists thing should have been a more general principle? Like, is it better game design to have the 3 spell lists or the class spell lists? And then figure out a way to make each of the classes work within that game? Like, it's not about a power boost. If you wanted to do a power boost to the ranger and a nerf to the wizard, you could just change which spells are on the class spell list, right? That's not what it's about. What it's about is, does this world building principle of, like, divine magic and primal magic and arcane magic, is that something you want represented in the rule set or not, right? And how does that help when you create new subclasses, when you are having players choose their spells? Like, that's the discussion we should be having. The discussion should be, was it easier to design the game this way? Was it easier to play the game this way? Not, did the ranger get a buff and did the wizard get a nerf? Because that's easy to compensate for.
Given the fact that many barbarian features they're not magical per se, but there is an extraordinary quality to them. The barbarian is one of those classes in a kind of interesting gray area between our full-on magical classes and then our classes like the fighter and the rogue, who at their sort of base form have no magic. The barbarian, because of their rage and some of their other capabilities,
those are mechanical representations of mundane abilities, right? They are firmly in the fighter rogue category with some subclasses that have magic. Firmly.
If you turn on reckless attack, you're not only going to benefit from it on the turn you activated it on, but you will also benefit from it should you take a reaction before the start of your next turn, like an opportunity attack, and so you're going to get advantage on that attack roll as well. This also has...
I like that the advantage lasts for as long as the advantage on you lasts, right? I think that's pretty good. Makes my Viking build a little better too. You know?
The nice effect of unifying the feature's duration, because the way we had it before, essentially the good part for the barbarian lasted only until the end of the turn on which you activated the feature, but the bad part lasted until the start of your next turn. So we've decided we're just going to have one duration for the entire feature, and that means the barbarian gets that sort of juiciness in more circumstances during a battle, of bringing over popular tech from Tasha's Cauldron.
This is a very recursive project, because I feel like they made Tasha's to patch the game. Like, there were a lot of, like, optional rules there that, like, would replace the rules originally, and I thought that 1D&D started because that didn't have the effect they were hoping for. And so they started this to do Tasha's stuff, and then they're like, you know, a year into it, they're like, hey, look, we're going to add some Tasha stuff. And I'm like, we know. We know you are, Jeremy. You love it. It's your favorite thing. Tasha's Cauldron of everything. But okay, what else are we getting?
We were intentionally careful about how much we did that earlier in this UA process, partly because we wanted to experiment with some things that weren't in Tasha's.
Yeah.
But we've actually been really gratified how much during the playtest process people have indicated in their comments, oh, I really like that feature from Tasha's. Can you just give that to us all the time?
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of those features ending up in the final versions of these classes.
You heard it here You heard it here first, folks. Buy the 2024 handbook, and you basically get Tasha's for free. That's Player's Handbook and Tasha's Call of Everything. You know? That's a deal.
We have also restored Brutal Critical to being a die roll, But rather than being a roll of one of your
I don't like that.
weapon dice, we've made it just, no matter what weapon you're using, it's a D12.
Big win for the dual wielders, right? Love that. God, I mixed the hand axe barbarian or the hand axe Viking that I just did like last night. It's so much better. All right, that's cool.
But again, with some quality of life and balance tweaks. So, like Divine Fury, you now get to determine the damage type that it deals each time you do it. You, with Warrior of the Gods, gives you some additional self-healing.
Did anyone think Warrior of the Gods was like an underpowered ability? Maybe. Maybe gold isn't a problem in your campaign, so it wasn't a big deal.
Not only did people previously make it clear they loved weapon mastery, but they especially loved it in the fighter. And so one of the things we've done in the fighter is the fighter now has even more weapon mastery. So fighters now cap out at 6 weapon masteries.
Holy fuck.
And
sorry, I can't say that.
People liked the ability that fighters got at higher level to swap out a weapon mastery property on a weapon for another.
Yeah.
But there's another example of us turning up the volume. It was clear, though, that they found it unsatisfying that you could switch out only one. So we have now created a brand new feature called Master of Armaments, which the fighter gets at level 9, which allows you to swap out the mastery properties on all of your mastery weapons.
Nice.
Not just one.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
That's exciting for a lot of reasons. First of all, 6 is a lot of masteries. That's you're good on 6. Whatever you were planning to do, you could do. The only way in which 6 is like a limit now is if you wanted to be able to do every type of fighting. So ranged and like melee and like 2-weapon fighting. Like if you wanted to do everything under the sun, 6 maybe is still like a limit you're going to run up against. 6 is wildly more weapon masteries than you need, in my opinion. And the ability to swap it out on all of them. God, that's so exciting. So it's still going to obey the limitation of the weapon. But I think you can have a lot of shenanigans with this. I think there are going to be a lot of builds that take many levels of fighter to get at least to that level 7 feature. God, it's such an edge case because like the fighting styles, like knocking someone prone or pushing them 5 feet or getting advantage, like all of these are things you can get in other ways. But it's going to be so tempting to go fighter to just get whatever you want on whatever you want.
Actually, every class in our game has something that replenishes on a short rest. But it's absolutely true that the weight that the short rest has for each class is very different.
So obviously monks get their key back. Sorcerers really care about their sorcery points. Clerics can get a channel divinity back on a short rest, if I'm not mistaken. But like rogues don't get anything, right? And he just lied there, right? What do rogues get back on a short rest? HP, you're going to say. The rogue didn't take any damage. The rogue was hiding. Yeah, like what does a ranger get back on a short rest? They don't have... All their spell slots are... Yeah, they don't have anything that comes back on a short rest. What is he talking about? Well, maybe they've changed everything since we last saw it. I don't know.
We're instead lifting all those restrictions except one, and that is saying action surge cannot be used for the magic action. Because ultimately...
Okay, that's significant. No, it's not. That's what it was going to be beforehand. Yes, so this is moving from a proactive, like, you can do these 5 things, like a cunning action thing, to you just can't do magic with it. Which is... Honestly, that's fair. That's a fair change that they made because, yeah, the problem was with the magic action. Absolutely. Also because the stupid, like, 2 spells on a turn rule is, like, in a very confusing way that makes action surge an exception. I feel like you could have fixed things by doing a change there. But, okay, sure.
I have abused this many times, so I know some folks are going to be sad about
Todd,
this,
one of
but
us.
The fighter has a couple of brand new features this time
Okay.
around. Right at second level, you get a
Why?
brand new feature called Tactical Mind. And one of the things we have
this is
been
interesting.
doing throughout this playtest is looking for ways to give classes that had very little non-combat utility some way to contribute more outside combat.
Hold on, I'm going to see if the PDF is up. And then we can maybe follow along. That actually might be the best way to do this. Oh, it's up. All right. Is this the best way to do this? It's the way I'm doing it now. That's how this is going to happen. Okay. Barbarian, we heard a lot of this stuff's the same. There's all the subclasses. That's delicious. All right. So, Tactical Mind. Fail an ability check, you expend a use of Second Wind. Rather than regaining hit points, you add the number rolled to the ability check. Okay. Okay.
It really is all about the fact that fighters are tacticians.
Yeah.
They are all about mastering battlefields.
Not necessarily true.
And so what we've let you now do is that you have the option of expending uses of Second Wind to give yourself a D10 that you can roll to add to ability checks that you make. So this would be rather than regaining hit points. And this, of course, would be very situational. The other brand new feature is at level 5. It's called Tactical Shift. Also plays into Second Wind. And what it allows you to do is whenever you activate your Second Wind as a bonus action, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. The fighter makes an attack roll against someone and misses. They have advantage on their next attack roll against that same target. So it's essentially, I thrust and I missed, but I saw how you dodged it. So on my next attack, I have a greater chance of hitting you.
That's very good for like a champion. I guess they took out the -5 from Great Weapon Master. I was going to say Great Weapon Master is so good with that because you got your -5 to hit, your increased chance to miss, which triggers this, and then you've got increased chance to hit on the next one. You come out ahead, I think, in that trade-off. And then the champion is going to take that advantage and get that increased crit chance, which is nice. Yeah, that's just a fun feature. Are these just adding up? What I want to do is I want to go back and see, did they take anything out? It seems like they're just kind of sprinkling more on, and I kind of felt like the fighter was the fighter was good, right? Do we agree? When we were talking about like, oh, marshals can't keep up, we were talking about the rogue and the barbarian and the monk. I feel like the fighter was always at the head of that pack. So this is just dandy, as a Southern gentleman would say.
Dismantled and its maneuvers given to the base class.
Yeah.
That is something we explored early on in our work for the 2024
Did you now?
handbook. We ended up not going in that direction and instead
Why?
introducing weapon mastery for a number of reasons, but the two
thanks for
main
answering.
things we'll talk about right now is, first off, people love this subclass.
Yeah.
What we did not want to do is just eliminate it for the sake of all the other subclasses.
Right.
Also, the Battle Master represents a style of play, having this pool of dice that you keep track of to spend on a variety of different micro effects, that it's just simply not for everybody who is attracted to being a fighter.
Right. Yeah.
Because we know from nearly a decade now of going through player feedback, there are many people who love playing fighters who have no interest in what the Battle Master does. So we decided we're going to let the Battle Master keep being the Battle Master and just enhance other subclasses and the base class in ways that are appropriate.
So first of all, the first point that he made about how everyone loves the Battle Master and we couldn't possibly like get rid of it. You know, you'd be giving those features to all the other classes, so people would probably love the fighter in general. Secondly, you could always do what they do with every other thing, which is create a set of mechanics for the base class and then have the battle master double down on it, right? Everyone else gets these other features, these like runes for Rune Knight, these whatever, and maybe the battle master is the only one that upgrades the dice for the maneuvers, or the battle master can learn twice as many maneuvers, or whatever. That's how this usually works, right? The second point, I would have in the past, I would have said that's no excuse. Having had this channel and gotten the replies that I've gotten and heard from people, I have to admit he's right. There's some people who just want to declare I attack and they want to roll the dice and then have the damage number be a high number, and they don't want resource management, which is, I mean, it's crazy to me, but that's just the way that I play. So yeah, a correct call here, but you know, bummer. And here's the Brawler. Here's our new subclass. I'm going to let him talk about it, and I'm going to go through the features in parallel.
About it. This is the badass who is going to beat that monster with a chicken wing or whatever it is to hand.
That is a thing that, you know, is just it's very...
So this is baseline.
Popular culture. Someone who, kind of like those Bane characters who can just, they are lethal all the time. They don't need any particular thing in their hands, and they're not necessarily the monk. They're just someone who everything is a weapon.
So let's do this a little bit more. So this is actually kind of a complicated subclass. I'm guessing they might revise it to be simpler, but essentially you're going to categorize your improvised weapons as a one-handed improvised weapon or a two-handed, and you are going to choose what like a set of qualities to give that weapon based on whether it's one-handed or two-handed. So all one-handed weapons that you use are going to have the light or thrown property with a range of 20 and a long range of 60. All two-handed weapons are going to have the reach or thrown property. Okay, so you can have a two-handed thrown weapon. That's so funny, actually. I kind of love that. But it's light or thrown. So you're either like basically getting your two one-handed weapons with the light property, or you are picking something up and throwing it. Fascinating. And then you're only going to choose a weapon mastery, either Sap, Slow, or Vex for the one-handed, and then either Cleave, Push, or Topple for the two-handed. And then it just, whatever you pick up is going to have that property. So you can think of this as like flavoring your one-handed or two-handed weapon, and then the subclass provides you with those weapons, right? So you're flavoring it as picking up a table, or picking up a chair, picking up a mug, but it's mechanically, it's one of these two options that the subclass provides you. Grappling Expert, I thought you could make an unarmed strike as a bonus action always. Was that not the case? Because these are like light weapons, so you can always make a two-handed attack with a... Anyway, but you can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, making it a grapple or shove only. So he's got the grappler stuff in here, the 1d6 bludgeoning damage to a creature grappled by you. Advantage on attack rolls made by improvised weapons against a creature grappled by you, so you're... Okay, alright, so you've got advantage on creatures you're grappling. And then, whenever you hit a creature with an improvised weapon, you can add your proficiency bonus to the damage roll, which at 15th level is like a 5, right? And damage die of your two-handed weapons becomes 1d12? Alright, that's good. Yes, that's good. Mastery properties from improvised expert instead of 1. Oh, 2. Okay, gotcha. And then unarmed strikes improved to a d8. So the monk is still a better unarmed fighter because theirs has been scaling up higher, so that's nice. Okay. That subclass makes sense to me.
The Eldritch Knight is here, so for everyone who loves the classic
Nothing to say on that.
Mage archetype, we've got you covered. And
where's your
the
design
main
notes?
changes here is after level 3, we have lifted the spell school restriction that Eldritch Knights had on some of their spell selection. So you'll have more flexibility now.
Nice.
We've also clarified that you can use an arcane focus when you're casting your spells. And then we've tweaked how both war magic and also improved war magic function.
Okay.
So we've now made it so that you can keep, as a fighter, taking the attack action on your turn, and you can now replace one of your attacks with a cantrip.
Yeah.
It used to be kind of the other way around, where if you use your action to cast a spell, you could make an attack as a bonus action.
Yeah.
What we found is that caused the Eldritch Knight's average damage to, in most cases, be lower than the typical fighter. The fighter and the barbarian, on average, over the life of a campaign, will on average deal more damage than members of most other classes. Other classes have higher peaks.
Yeah.
Other classes will have moments of damage that exceed the fighter and the barbarian, but they are the Energizer Bunnies. They're the ones who can consistent deal a reliable amount of damage. But that was undermined in the Eldritch Knight by having essentially this encouragement for the Eldritch Knight to cast a spell instead of taking the attack action.
Yep.
And this was rough for a class where one of their main features is they get more attacks than anybody else.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we now fixed that in the Eldritch Knight so that now it's instead the other way around. Keep taking that attack action, but you can now replace one of those attacks with a cantrip. And then when you get improved war magic, you also have the option of replacing 2 of your attacks. And remember, when a fighter gets high enough level, they have 4 attacks.
Yeah.
You can replace 2 of them to cast a level 1 or level 2 spell.
Nice.
So I think...
And that's good. You know, the real heavy hitter here is just that 7th level war magic, right? Because then you get the Blade Singer effect of, like, you can Booming Blade on one of your attacks. And that's great. It's really nice. It's so good. And I think that because cantrips scale with your level, that will continue to be a very useful feature. You're going to use that on every single turn. This radically changes the Eldritch Knight, and it's awesome. Now, the Blade Singer is getting all sorts of bonuses from their subclass, and they've got full casting instead of third casting. So we still wouldn't ever take this subclass, but it is so much closer to being good. I improved War Magic at level 18. I actually don't think that a first level spell is going to be that much better. I mean, maybe you guys can come up with like a theory crafting thing. I think a cantrip that has scaled to 18th level is going to be better than a first level spell in most cases, is my suspicion. Like a green flame blade that is, you know, being cast from an 18th level character is better than a Scorching Ray. I believe. I mean, I haven't run the numbers. And of course it expends a resource, right? So like if you had infinite spell slots, I think you might still use the cantrip, but you don't have infinite spell slots. You have 1/3 caster spell slots. So even at 18th level, like, you're not getting, you know, that's like 2 rounds of first level spells. So I actually think that 18th level feature is not very good. Like, I don't think that you would use it when you get it. Maybe if that was part of the level 7, like if it was, you can take, when you take that attack action on your turn, you can replace one of your attacks with a cantrip or a first level spell. Now we're cooking, right? Now we actually have a subclass that you might take. You might actually want to play it if this was part of the level 7 feature. And then 18th level can be, you know, you can replace 2 or whatever of your attack instead of 1. Food for thought, right? Food for thought.
So, since the last time that people saw this class, we have taken some of those class-specific spells that we experimented with, and we've turned them either into non-spell features or into spells on the Sorcerer's spell list, and then evolved them a bit. So an example of that. Innate Sorcery is a first level feature now that allows you to enter almost like a arcane rage, where for 1 minute after you activate it, the spell save DC of your sorcerer spells increases by 1, and you have advantage on the attack rolls of your sorcerer spells.
Nice.
This then is an ability that gets enhanced by several later features. Eventually, it gets to the point where when it's on, the sorcerer can use 2 meta magics per spell instead of only 1. And then its sort of ultimate form is you then get a meta magic on your castings that costs you no sorcery points. And that is something that will also help extend the life of your sorcery point pool, which we know is often a pain point for sorcerers.
Yeah.
Now, resource management is something.
Hold on. Is that Arcane Apotheosis? Is there anything else? That's it. There's no more wish spell, right, guys? I mean, am I wrong? Like, I don't see the wish spell in there. Yeah, just a free meta magic. Okay, so it's meta magic. Love that. So you're getting. All right, so the sorcerer is now built around innate sorcery, which is you do a 1 minute and increases the spell save DC of your spells and advantage on attack rolls, which I think is better, right? Advantage is better than a +1. And that +1, I don't see that scaling anywhere. There is nowhere that says it increases the scaling of that. So it's always going to be a +1. So on one hand, in a lot of ways, sorcerers are still the blaster now, right? They are the ones that want to be making spell attack rolls because they're going to have advantage on the spell attack rolls. And that's very, very, very good. But, and then from there on, you're really doing meta magic. Meta magic. You're getting your options and you're increasing the number of options at, what is this? 7th level, you can use 2 of them on each spell you cast, which I don't know how good that is. I guess we'll look at the meta magics in a second. And then at 20th level, which no one ever is even going to look at, you get 1 for free on each of your turns. So you could, I guess, spend on the second one, but now you're basically doing meta magic constantly without using your your sorcery points, all while in this Sorcerer's Rage. So that's the game loop for the Sorcerer, which is going to be very interesting. I think I'd like to see some damage calculations based on all of this. Because that could be very interesting. I guess for damage calculations, you would want things like, you would want Empowered Spell. This is funny because now you're going to get the option to do 2 on it anyway. You might want, gosh golly gee. What would you want to do? I guess you would want a cantrip action, quicken spell, and then in addition to Quicken Spell, do something like an Empowered Spell or a... Sorry, what was that with Twin Spell? You can up level by 1 for 1 sorcery point? Wait, you guys... Charm person or hold person to target an additional creature. Whoa! Oh, that's pretty good, right? So, severely limits the number of spells this can be cast on. But that's a lot more the way that you would expect it to be cast. And it costs 1 sorcery point? Wait, 1? Why? This feels way too good, right, guys? What? That's bananas. Let me just say, I just looking through these, especially since Empowered Spell already says you can do this even if you've used a different meta magic option on the spell. So like, what you're looking for is like which of these guys would you want to combine? Careful Spell, Distance Spell, Extended Spell, Heightened Spell, Quicken Spell, Seeking Spell, Subtle Spell, Transmuted Spell. Like, it's kind of not many of them, right? Like, I guess Subtle Heightened would be amazing. Mm. Or like quickened. No, I don't know. Because each of these are pretty situational. I don't know that this 5th level or the 7th level feature is actually going to be that useful.
That is a part of every class in our game. So that is something that we won't get rid of, but we are mindful of where is it painful rather than fun and interesting. We want it to be fun and interesting, not painful. And so speaking of shepherding your sorcery points, we have taken the Sorceress Restoration feature from level 15 and brought it all the way down to level 5.
Oh, wow.
And this now gives you a certain number of sorcery points back whenever you roll initiative and have none remaining.
Yeah.
And this will then scale up because it's based on your sorcerer level, and it starts as you just get 1 back if you roll initiative and have none remaining, and then it will go up to the 4 that it was before. So
that's pretty weak.
Decided rather than making you wait until almost the end of your career to have this function, we now give you the function way earlier, and then it will scale up with you. And people are going to see in our next version of the Monk, for instance, people are going to see similar tech there, where we're already going through feedback on UA6 for the survey, and we were working on this Unearthed Arcana while people were surveying for that, and we were already improving a number of these sort of point management systems here, and so the Monk will get to benefit from that when the Monk gets its 2nd version. Perfect. Some further tweaks in the meta magic options. Not many, though, because overall people loved what we did with meta magic last time. The main thing that we have changed here is we have yet another version of Twin Spell.
You
Twin
do.
Spell was actually the only meta magic option that didn't score well last time around. And
because
so
you
we have
nuked it to the ground.
Here. This time around, because people were really hungry for having that sort of 2nd target option back.
Yes.
But as I explained in another video, we cannot do it the way it was done in 2014 because that version, just the math of it was way off. It cost far too few sorcery points. And then if we were able to make it cost the appropriate number of sorcery points,
prohibitive.
You wouldn't even be able to use the feature until you were near the end of your career.
Right.
Also, the old Twin Spell had the problem of requiring a lot of complexity in terms of figuring out which spells it actually worked with.
Right.
So we are committed to, we are not bringing back the overpowered version that would have to become prohibitively expensive if we kept it. We are also not bringing back that complexity. But we hear people about wanting to be able to cast a spell that normally targets 1 person, and now they want to make it target 2.
Right.
So this time around, what we're doing is we're making it so that Twin Spell can modify spells like Charm Person and Hold Person, where currently, if you read the spell, and you go down and look at the at higher level section, it will tell you if you cast this spell with a higher level spell slot, you can target an additional person. Twin Spell now functions with those spells and spells like them.
Totally fine.
What it lets you do is essentially up-level the spell to get that additional target and do that up-leveling for a very modest sorcery point cost. And so basically we're bringing back...
having looked at this feature, I think it would be entirely reasonable to make this 2 sorcery points or even 3. I don't think that would be too much. It's wild to me that they have printed this version, but I think they didn't want to be accused of nerfing it again. But it's overpowered again. It's back to being too good.
Yeah.
The multi-targeting, and it is now limited to the spells that we have designed to actually step-by-step increase the number of targets.
Right.
And now you can do it at a much lower cost than spending a higher level spell slot. The other good news here is as we revise the spells in the game, quite a few spells that did not have an at higher level section in 2014 will now have such a section in 2024. People can see that in this UA in the jump spell, where the jump spell did not have an at higher levels before. It now does. And it's
twin spell jump.
Exactly this kind, where if you cast it with a higher level slot, you can target more people.
It's also something I keep in mind when I'm playing a warlock as well, is like, okay, well, am I getting the most, personally out of this? Since I'm like having to cast it at the highest I can, like, does it make sense for me to use that on a spell that does not scale?
And so now the sorcerer can use twin spell with this new version to get that extra target and not have to spend the next higher level spell slot to do so.
And then you're erasing the concentration issue as well, like for whole person's concentration. So
correct. And that's the other thing that we are comfortable bringing back in is people noted that the version that we play tested before no longer allowed you to essentially feel like you were concentrating on two spells at once. Not something we're comfortable giving out too freely. Whereas in this new version of the twin spell, because it's enhancing spells that are already designed to up level into having multiple targets, you are now.
This does feel like real game design. Like I have been critical of this process for feeling like it is like gaming by committee, that it is too focused on the numbers. This genuinely does feel like a very well thought out solution with the existing rule set and like being kind of clever. So this is good. Like this change, I have a lot of admiration for the team for landing on a change like this. It's a little weird that we didn't get this in the first revision. Like good ideas only, please. But this is a good idea. And I think that the cost is too low. And I think that they're doing that reactively because people freaked out about it. I think 2 sorcery points should be reasonable for upcasting. But okay, okay. Like that, this is gonna be, this is a good change. Hey guys, so it is clear to me from watching the first video that it is hard to hear Jeremy and Todd in the video that I'm watching. I'm so sorry about that. It's a really long video, and I'm trying to prioritize getting these out, so I'm not going to redo it. I'm going to try and fix that for this particular video. I've amped the volume on the computer, and I've got the subtitles up, so maybe you can see that. Let's see if I can make myself any. Yeah, let's put me over there, and let's hear about the Warlock.
Let's go into the Warlock, the non-controversial Warlock.
I think this version of the Warlock is delightful. After our experiment of not having pack magic, pack magic is back in this version of the Warlock, and we saw in the playtest feedback how much people really want this feature to stay in the class. So the playtest did its job, which was to answer that question: how important was it?
That's true.
But we still have our goal, which was, and for anyone who saw our videos about the last version of the Warlock, I talked about the fact one of our main reasons for experimenting with replacing pack magic was to let the Warlock cast their spells more often. Pack magic, because of how it works, of the spells all going up to the Warlock's highest slot level, it's really constrained in terms of the Warlock's spell list. It's also constrained in terms of number of slots. But again, we also know that people are like, but can we cast our spells a few more times? So in answer to that, and to accompany the return of pack magic, we have introduced a new feature at level 2 called Magical Cunning. And Magical Cunning lets a Warlock perform a 1-minute ritual to then regain a certain number of their pack magic spell slots. They can do this only once per day, but this is a big deal, because what this means is that in addition to being able to get their spell slots back on short rests and long rests, they also have this ability that they can do now once per day at low level.
And that's not a nice thematic thing as well.
No, I don't love this solution. It is one of the ones that I think I proposed in my 5 potential Warlock fixes. It's very similar to this monk ability that they introduced that was like taking a 1-minute meditation to recover your key points. Again, I'm the type of person who is, game time is not real time. You know what I mean? If I, the DM, sit there and I go, you guys have time to take a short rest, right? That does not mean I have carefully considered that there is 1 hour free of it. It's time to take a short rest, right? That's in the pacing and the flow of the game. That's what I want to do. If there is no short rest, it's because something is immediately going to be happening, or something, a reaction from the end of that last combat is occurring, or somebody else has walked into the room and seen you, standing over the body, and it's go time, right? If I don't want there to be a short rest, then it's go time. There is no 1 minute. There's never a 1 minute thing. And I think it's hard on DMs to have to adjudicate that 1 minute distinction for your monks and your warlocks now. So I don't like it as a solution to the warlock problem. With that said, I'm not 100% convinced that if you're going Pact Magic, let me just put it this way. Warlock's a very popular class in the modern 5th edition D&D. Very popular class, in contention all the time when people are choosing their classes. There are some that don't get considered very often. Warlock is not one of them. Warlock is very popular. It's a very popular multi-class as well. And if you're going to keep Pact Magic in, I don't think it needs that many changes. If you are going to keep that aspect of the game the same, which it's clunky and it's different and it's weird, but it is popular. So if you're going to have it around, you don't need to change it that much. So I guess this is a solution, to me, is the same as no change, right?
This is similar to something we did in the Sorcerer, where we took a very high-level feature that gave you your core resource back and gave you a low-level version of it. So here, how we did that is Magical Cunning is basically a low-level version of Eldritch Master.
Yeah.
And so the new version of Eldritch Master that is now back in the Warlock now builds on Magical Cunning, because we essentially give you a little mini Eldritch Master early, and then you blossom into it later in your career. And again, people will see in the next version of the Monk similar kind of approach.
Nice.
Of bringing some of that resource restoration lower level, and then have it bloom into the fuller version that people are accustomed to. Other things that are
now, I do like that principle, by the way. Moving like a watered down feature of a high level feature to lower, and then you're just kind of getting an upgrade later. That is how I think classes should work. I like that approach. I like that design space. This change is not very good, but the way in which this change was implemented and that they seem to be moving towards with other changes is good, and I like that. I like that aspect of this playtest.
Big in the Warlock is Mystic Arcanum is back in the base class.
There you are.
And the Contact Patron feature that we introduced last time
still there?
Here to stay. People really like it, but it's at a lower level than it was last time. Otherwise, the base Warlock class right now looks very similar to the 2014 Warlock. Where the main changes are, other than
to the invocations,
Contact Patron being here and Magical Cunning being a new feature at second level, is we have taken the Pact Boons feature and absorbed it into Eldritch Invocations.
Okay.
In contrast, Mystic Arcanum is back to being a core feature and not a part of Eldritch Invocations.
Gotcha.
People correctly pointed out that having Mystic Arcanum inside the Eldritch Invocations subsystem made it so that people felt like they had to spend a lot of their Eldritch Invocation options on Mystic Arcanum. So we pulled Mystic Arcanum back outside Eldritch Invocations, but we put packed boons into the Eldritch Invocations pool.
Interesting.
Here's the reason we did this. We want you to be able to have more than one. We actually, for a long time, have felt that Pact of the Blade and Pact of the Tome are really the starting choices. Pact of the Chain and then Pact of the Talisman and Tasha's Cauldron are really add-on boons and are not meant to have the same function for your character. Pact of the Blade and Pact of the Tome are really about your warlock's sort of core combat style.
Yeah.
Are you more about a weapon, or are you more about spellcasting? Even though all warlocks are spellcasters.
Yeah.
It's not a kind of either or thing. It's really just
where are you leaning?
Where are you leaning?
Yes.
And when we were looking at the feedback and seeing people rightly pointing out, Pact of the Chain, for instance, has a very different power profile for a warlock, and people were requesting or musing about that becoming as spicy as Blade and Tome. And we realized, well, it's never been meant to be as spicy as those two. And then the deeper we thought about it, we realized, and we don't want you picking one of those two blocking you from having an enhanced familiar.
Right.
And this one thing led to another, and we realized these are Eldritch Invocations, and we're actually okay with you having more than one of them.
So some of this I've seen, so I'm gonna react to it now. I am in favor of this change. This is kind of cool. I like that they are invocations. I like that you can mix and match if you want to. That is, golly gee, that is neat and fun. Looks like on your progression you get one invocation at first level, which presumably will be your pact, but it doesn't have to be. It seems like level 5 is a huge level for the Warlock. I think bigger than extra attack for other classes. I really do. Because level 5 you're getting 2 invocations, and then there's a bunch of invocations that are capped at 5th level for taking. So that'll be huge. And then you can get multi-attack with your Thirsting Blade if you've taken Pact of the Blade. And of course your spell slots are getting upgraded, so level 5 is like, for a Warlock. That's big time, big time. Very, very cool. I like but this is a real, overwork, I think. Just in terms of, doing all of the invocations look different, like all of them do. So that's very, very exciting. I'll have to do a deep dive on this in the future, but I'm very happy with that, That is super, super cool. Yeah, these are neat. So obviously the level cap, what they're doing is, because you are not a half caster anymore, your spell slot progression is tracking much faster. So now they can safely give you these invocations earlier, because you were going to have access to those spells anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So let's see, Master of Myriad Forms, right, used to be 15 plus. Master of Myriad Forms is going to give you Alter Self without expending a spell slot. Alter Self, of course, 2nd level spell even. Yeah, so you were already going to be able to get the spell Alter Self well before level 5, so now it's just a matter of now you don't need to spend a spell slot on it, which is cool. Otherworldly Leap, yeah, jump without expending a spell slot. Well, apparently jump's better, so we gotta wait and see how good jump is before we can evaluate Otherworldly Leap. God, I love. The more we can talk about the jump spell, the happier I'd be. I like to change to Life Drinker as well. I always liked Life Drinker as just a concept, as an invocation. I wish it was better. But you expend one of your hit dice to regain hit points. So you have to expend a resource, which kind of sucks. But at least it'll probably be more health that you're gaining. And, you don't want to wait until a short rest to recover hit points with your hit die if you can, right? You want to be more survivable in the moment. So this is just nice. And you know what? My Blood Death Knight build, it gets more and more tools. Every day we get closer to the Blood Death Knight. Okay.
Did last time.
Jeremy.
They pointed out it still needs some oomph. There now are enhancements not only in Pact of the Blade, but we also have brought Thirsting Blade back, and it also has an improvement inside it. And so you now have some damage boosts and also a number of attack boosts in Pact of the Blade, and then in some of the Eldritch Invocations, should you decide to lean even harder into that direction, that will make it so that you can really feel like an effective weapon user.
Great day for the Gish builds, let me tell you. Eldritch Knight, Pact of the Blade, the Gish is strong.
Or, remember, since now you can dabble, you might be a Pact of the Tome, primarily a Pact of the Tome Warlock, but but I also like the ability to pull out, to summon up this spectral weapon and whack somebody with it. So I'm going to have a little bit of that fun too.
Yeah.
And so you can mix and match. And
am I correct in the fact that the Elder's Smite is back?
Yes. We have also imported some more invocations from Tasha's Cauldron and Xanathar's Guide. Eldritch Smite was an invocation we introduced in Xanathar's Guide, and we want to move it to the Player's Handbook. I encourage people to dive into the long design note for the Eldritch Invocations, because there are many tweaks there, both big and small.
Perfect.
When it comes to Warlock subclasses, the Fiend is back with several tweaks. I
am going to have to do a deep dive, because it looks like they changed Pact of the Chain, or the investment of the Chain Master. This looks different to me. Yeah, they took out the creature type. Oh, that was so cool. Okay, this is good. This is overall a good change. Why does it have to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time? Great. You can choose these other forms. Okay. So this is an expanded list of forms. Any other Pact of the Chain stuff? So this is the investment thing that is now different. I guess this was the example, right? Was they said they didn't want Pact of the Chain to be that much better. I don't know why. They were like they literally would rather change everything to an invocation than make it better. But okay, it's fine.
We have the Feywild, and this is a very Misty Step teleporter.
Archfey.
Okay, so yes, the Archfey Patron.
Yeah.
The Archfey Patron, its features, other than Misty Escape in 2014, were all low scoring when we did our big Player's Handbook survey in 2021. All of them were in the 60s, other than Misty Escape. What that told us is we need to take a whack at redesigning this subclass. Keep that one feature people really liked.
Yeah.
And so what you're now going to see here is us really leaning into 2 of the main Fey themes in D&D for characters and monsters, and that is the charm condition and teleportation. And that teleportation appears in a big way right at level 3, where you always have Misty Step prepared. You can cast it a certain number of times per day without using spell slots, and you have some add-on effects that you can apply to this teleportation.
Yeah.
This is similar thematically to what we did with Eladrin, the playable species, and that similarity is intentional, because this is the Warlock who is tapping into the same Fey magic as Eladrin. But it's a different mechanism here. This is built on you specifically casting the Misty Step spell, and we modify it over time. So now Misty Escape lets you cast Misty Step as a reaction in response to taking damage, and also gives you a couple more effects that you have the option of applying, and you can apply just one
Yeah.
each time you cast Misty Step. But when you get to level 6, you will now have 4 options, a little menu of 4 that you can choose from. But now also we've made it so that if someone has the cheek to hit you with an attack roll, you can essentially beguile them into taking some of that damage themselves.
Yeah.
Which is a very Faye thing to do.
Hearing Jeremy say, if someone has the cheek to attack you, that's the most personality these things fucking have. I can't say swear words, can I? That's alright, we'll figure that out. Yeah, so this is a great redesign of the subclass. It's all around the Misty Step spell. It's all based on that, so you are popping around the battlefield. I actually love here, I love the taunting step because it's the people you're leaving. So an enemy gets close to you, you teleport away, and now they have disadvantage to hit anyone else but you are far away. So that makes you just so incredibly, like, it's almost a great frontline feature, right? Because your allies aren't taking damage because they have disadvantage on attacking them. You aren't taking damage because you are not there. Which is great. I think that's pretty cool. And just to get it that right at level 3 is pretty fun. You know, being able to cast Misty Step as a reaction is good, and it doesn't seem like whenever you cast a spell, you can choose one of the following additional effects, and then in addition, the following effects are now among your Step of Fae. So it seems like you can use this effect on a reaction spell as well. It doesn't seem like we have any problem with it. You do have to choose one, so you can't Taunting Step and Disappearing Step, which would be the combo that you would want. But you can do this on a reaction now. So you keep your reaction free for that teleport, and you can heal, you can cause some psychic damage, you can do all that kind of stuff. I like Beguiling Defense as like basically like you share the damage with your opponent. And Bewitching Magic, you just do Misty Step as part of every enchantment or illusion spell. That's pretty cool. And you get your bonus on it, too. You get your, Taunting Step or your Disappearing Step or whatever you want to do on that as well. So, yeah, very cool, very thematic, love it. I love it as a change to the thing.
The Great Old One subclass, it has more tweaks than that.
Yeah.
So in addition to having the improved Patron Spells feature that all the Warlock subclasses now have, its Awakened Mind feature now gives you a more useful telepathy. The 2014 version was this one-way communication. We've now made it so that you can create two-way communication with a single creature. And then we've, at level 6, made it so that you have a feature that plays on this, where you can then use...
Weaponized it.
Yes, you can weaponize your telepathic communication with somebody, because we want to really dig in deeper to this spooky, cosmic horror, telepathy angle. And so, it got spookier.
Yeah.
And we also gave you a new feature at level 10 called Eldritch Hex, where you get the Hex spell for free and you have enhancements to how you use it. We're doing this partly because the Great Old One honestly needed a damage.
So, okay, a lot going on here. A lot going on. So we've got the free Subtle Spell, right, on enchantment and illusion things. Great. Damage type to Psychic for all Warlock spells. Incredible. Psychic is very uncommonly resisted, so very, very good. Clairvoyant Combatant. You form this telepathic bond, and they have disadvantage on attack rolls against you, and you have advantage on attack rolls against that creature. That's an amazing, single target damage boost. Amazing! Holy crap! This is weird, right? Oh, so it's the forcing the wisdom saving throw that you can only do once per combat, essentially. And then you can use a spell slot to do it too, which I think is worthwhile, right? A second level spell slot for... Oh, but you're a warlock, so you don't get to choose if you have a second level spell slot or not. Okay. And then he's talking about Eldritch Hex. Always have the hex spell prepared, and then when you cast it, the disadvantage on saving throws of the chosen ability. Oh, that's pretty good. So it's not just ability checks. That's pretty good. Okay.
So the wizard, we had fun with some of these spells we introduced last time, like Modify Spell, Create Spell. There was a mix of tremendous excitement about those spells and also a lot of dread at what they could do to certain play environments, concern about, is this eating the sorcerer's metamagic lunch? We saw the feedback and we decided we're going to put those back on the shelf. And so...
Cowards and thieves. Yeah, I mean, it's... Especially, I've talked about this a lot, on this channel. Whenever I talk about 1D&D in like an abstract sense, it's so frustrating that we are not going to get very many iterations of these classes. We are getting like 2 or 3 at most iterations of these classes, which means each iteration needs to be a strong step in the right direction. And it really felt like create and learn spell were just, or modify spell, whatever, were just thrown out there without a ton of critical thought about it. And it's just a waste of everyone's time. It's so sad. And I think it could have been salvaged with some hard work. But I guess it's just easier to just give it up. Not that the wizard needed anything. Like the wizard does not need a buff. It doesn't need a buff. It is fine as it is, but it is like, what a waste of everyone's time to throw out that interesting idea and then just throw it away as soon as someone was like, hey, this might not be well thought out.
Modify Spell and Create Spell are no longer here. Memorize Spell is still here, but now it is a non-spell feature rather than a spell given to you by a feature.
Right.
Arcane Recovery has returned to first level to make it easier for wizards to get some spell slots back right away when they start their careers on a short rest, because spell slots are the wizard's bread and butter. Because the wizard does not have, intentionally, that many other features going on.
Yeah.
The wizard's main feature is they interact with spells more flexibly than anybody else, and also with a list that is longer than anybody else.
Right.
So wizard already has the largest number of spells in their spell. It's not as nice as like clerics just choosing each morning like from the whole cleric list, but it is, they usually have a lot of spells learned, right? And what Memorize Spell does is it allows you to pull a spell learned into spells prepared in 1 minute. And it seems like this doesn't require a spell slot. It is not limited in any way. The only thing is you can only have 1 spell prepared like this at a time. So once you memorize the second spell, that first one goes back into spells learned. So this is going to really well utilize the wizard's whole, like, they just pack a bunch of utility spells in there, a gizmo for every occasion, and then when it comes up, they'll take a minute, they'll memorize the spell, and then they'll apply it. So very, very, very good. They already could ritual cast out of their spells learned instead of their spells prepared, so already they were in a great place there. I think this is just helping them out even further. So and it doesn't cost a spell slot now, which is crazy.
Academic, that feature has been replaced by a similarly named one called Scholar, which is about giving you expertise in a skill that is wizard appropriate.
Nice.
Okay.
Given the fact that wizards are
they get expertise?
the scholarly class.
Yeah. They should be good at Arcana.
Yes.
Now, note that this is not, I talk about roles of the party, like no investigation on here, obviously no charisma-based skills, which is, understandable, no, stealth or anything like that. So this is, this is less helpful than expertise normally is. Normally I give expertise a lot of credit, but I actually think this is pretty limited.
Changes at high level in spell mastery is One, we've made it so that it's easier for you to change what those spells are, but we have also made it so that those spells can no longer be bonus actions or reactions. We have realized, not only in our own play, but also reading the playtest feedback, that allowing a high-level wizard to cast Shield, for example, at will, it is simply too good.
Yeah.
And that is why people will see that spell mastery is now limited to spells that require an action to cast.
Gotcha.
And honestly, that was our original design intent, and we simply didn't think a decade ago to exclude bonus actions and reactions, and now we're like, okay, it's time for us to do it.
Yeah.
Sculpt spells used to be a level 3 feature, and Potent Cantrip was level 6. The problem was, very few spells, when you were a level 3 wizard, actually benefited from Sculpt spells. And at those lower levels, you're especially relying on your cantrips. And so we decided, let's switch this so that the evoker can really enjoy those potent cantrips at the levels when they would be most valuable, and can start sculpting spells at the level when most of the evoker's main AoE spells are coming online.
Right.
So I think this is a...
Yeah, I agree with that. I also, just for the purpose of a story, I love the ability to, like, at level 5 you learn Fireball, and you're blasting people with Fireball, and then your friends are getting hurt, and like the next level you're like, hey guys, I've worked out a solution to the problem. That's fun. You should have a problem before you solve the problem. That's hot takes coming from me. Yeah, that potent cantrip, it's interesting that remains here. But okay, that's fine by me. And then that seems like all of the changes, right? Because the only other one is Savant now adds 1 evocation spell to your spellbook whenever you gain access to a new level spell slot. Yeah, makes sense to me personally. Why did he start with Evoker? That's annoying. I guess it was because of the one from the last one.
We also have the Abjurer, the Diviner, and the Illusionist who are here. The Abjurer has several nice tweaks. One of those is you can now, with your Arcane Ward, simply burn a spell slot to replenish your ward's hit points, rather than sort of having to jump through the hoop of casting an appropriate spell to do it.
Yeah.
And instead it can just be, I simply need this thing right now to have more hit points.
Yeah.
And I don't have a spell that I want to cast right now.
Yeah.
And so we have, in a way, cut out that middle step.
Yeah.
Which, that step is still there if you want it, where casting an Abjuration spell restores hit points. We've just now given you another way of restoring those hit points.
So really quick, on this. So it looks to me like whenever you cast an Abjuration spell with a spell slot, number of hit points equal to twice the level of the spell slot. Alternatively, as a bonus action, you can expend a spell slot and it gains twice the level of the spell slot. So yeah, it gives you the ability to just consume a spell slot. You don't have to cast the spell, but it's not any better, and you don't get the use of the spell. So why would you want that? You would never want that. Then this cancels out that little Eldritch Invocation thing with the mage armor, which is, closing loopholes is probably good for the game overall. Once you create the word, you can't create it again until you finish a long rest. But it looks like it sticks around. It doesn't, its magic remains, so that's fine.
We have also replaced Improved Abjuration in the Abjurer with a new feature called Spellbreaker. And what Spellbreaker does is it gives you Dispel Magic prepared all the time, and you can cast it as a bonus action, and you can add your proficiency bonus to the ability check you make inside it.
Nice.
Making you, as it says in the feature name, a Spellbreaker.
Nice.
Which is very much the identity of the Abjurer. The previous Improved Abjuration had that add your proficiency bonus to the ability check part. That's the one piece we've preserved. And that's about all it did.
Yeah.
It did that.
Spell breaker. So lots of bonus action stuff with this class, which is nice, I think. It'd be interesting to see if there are any bonus action abjuration spells. I know they're moving healing spells to Abjuration School, but they're not going to be on the wizard spell list. But if you get access to a bonus action abjuration spell, I feel like that's going to be useful. Add your proficiency bonus to its ability check. And then, yeah, the rest of this is all spell resistance, advantage on saving throws against spells, resistance to the damage of spells. That's really good. I think you're a wizard, but it's really good.
It added that to Dispel Magic and also to Counterspell, and the few other very rare spells that include an ability check. We decided, let's just give you Dispel Magic and make it awesome.
Yeah.
Also, Counterspell, as people will see in this very Unearthed Arcana, no longer includes an ability check, and so the old improved abjuration would have had no interaction with that spell.
Gotcha.
Okay, all right. We gotta go check this out, right? Where are my spells? There are the spells. There's Counterspell. Okay. Reaction. Casting a spell with a verbal, somatic, or material component. That's very clear, which I like. Clarity is good. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. The creature must make a Constitution saving throw, and on a failed save, the spell fizzles with no effect. So it's up to the creature. Ooh, baby. And it is a saving throw, so legendary resistance would apply. Wow. Wow. That's probably good for the game, as well as like for players to get, because players want to be in control of their own thing, you know. And it's not. It looks like it's a saving throw for all possible spells, so you actually get a significant return on investment for using this on a higher spell, right? You don't want to cast this on a first or second level spell because it will still trigger the same saving throw. I guess it's implied to be your saving throw. Yes. So you only want to use Counterspell on the big spells, which honestly makes sense to me. That's honestly fine.
I will mention real quick, because wizard players will certainly care about it, as will sorcerers, warlocks, and others. We not only have a fun new version of Jump in this
I gotta go
UA,
look at
but
Jump.
also a new version.
Why is he talking about
Counterspell.
Jump?
Right. The new version of Jump is a bonus action instead of an action.
Nice.
It can be cast at higher levels to affect multiple people, and it is no longer reliant on your speed. This is significant because the 2014 version of Jump was a spell that, in addition to you having to spend your whole action on it, had some hidden feel bad in it if you then went and looked at the jump rules.
Yeah.
Because the spell very simply just says your jump distance is tripled. But anyone who knows our jump rules knows that when you jump, you have to spend movement for every foot of your jump.
Yep.
And the jump spell didn't give you any extra speed.
Gotcha.
So while it might have tripled your jump distance, it didn't give you any additional speed to actually make use of all of that distance.
Right.
So you could often, with certain characters, depending on what their strength was, since jumps are based on your strength, get this tripling that's like, but I don't have enough movement to even use this extra distance. So we have now given you the ability with this spell to take this sort of fun hop with it, where on each of your turns you can burn 10 feet of movement to jump 30 feet. And you can do...
All I'm saying is, I took Jump on my Viking character that I released earlier this week, and I thought that was just silly. But now, it's almost good. It's nearly in a good spot.
Here's the problem. Counterspell isn't dispelling a spell. The whole story, and this even the 2014 version said this, is you are attempting to interrupt a creature casting a spell.
Right.
The creature is the target, not the spell.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
And one of the huge issues with Counterspell in its 2014 form is it was no harder to counter a Archlich than it was a 6th level wizard. And we needed to correct that. Because
I
it
agree.
really needed to account for the might of the spellcaster. And so with that in mind, Counterspell now is a saving throw that the target makes. It's a Constitution save, just like concentration saving throws are Constitution saves. And the spell is only interrupted if they fail their saving throw.
Hold on, just like, but not a concentration save. So if you have a bonus like Eldritch Mind or Mind Sharpener or something, or the Warcaster feat, so anything that helps you with concentration saves does not help you against Counterspell. Important to know.
What this means is not only higher CR monsters will be harder to counter than lower CR monsters, but also flip it around, because sometimes monsters cast Counterspell. It means a higher level player character will be able to resist being countered more than a lower level player character. But wait, there's more. We've also made it so that Counterspell is not a double penalty. And what I mean by that is in 2014, if you succeeded at countering a spell, you not only wasted that spellcaster's action, or bonus action or reaction that they used to cast that spell, you also wasted the spell slot that they used to cast it, if they used a spell slot for it.
Right.
That is actually a larger punishment than the spell is meant to be. And so people will see that in the new version, Counterspell will still essentially waste the bonus action or reaction that was used to cast the spell, but it does not expend the spell slot.
Oh, okay.
And the narrative...
That's so good. That's a good change. Some people might come after me. I think Counterspell was clearly an issue in the game, just in terms of how powerful it was. Having this, it'd be no more difficult to counter an 8th level spell than a 1st level spell. I got a little worried there for a second, but he's totally right. Your Lich is not going to waste their 9th level spell slot if it gets countered. They're just going to have to wait another turn. And in that turn, they're going to take damage, and that is a significant enough threat in and of itself.
Here is think of it as, since you interrupted them in the process of casting, they never completed casting the spell.
Right.
And so the resource is not expended, at least the spell slot is not. If they were using some other resource, it's still gone. But if it's a spell slot, they still have it.
Yeah.
Which means you can no longer counter someone's 9th level spell, and their 1 9th level spell slot for the day is gone.
Yeah.
But it does mean they still lost their action. But that's, again, much more where
40 seconds
power
left.
was meant to be in Counterspell, is to be able to say nope to that spell in this moment, not, and I've also deprived you of one of your core resources for the rest of the day. So I look forward to people playtesting this new version of Counterspell and Jump, and I'm excited to find out what people think of everything in this UA as well as the UAs ahead of us.
Perfect. And that is Unearthed Arcana 7. It's quite large, and it should be available right now on D&D Beyond, so go check that out and look through the PDF and give us your feedback. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, 54 pages of this PDF. Not the biggest UA that they've had, but it's up there. I think it is the second, because the previous version of this exact UA was like 50, right? 52. So I'll be today. I'm going to spend the rest of the day going through this, making videos on each of the classes, doing a more deep dive and comparing to previous abilities. But overall, I actually like the changes. I like the progress that we're making with this particular UA. I like some of the reworks on the subclasses. As usual, You know, not every decision they make is something that I approve of or I agree with, but I think overall I'm liking the direction. So great job, Jeremy, and keep a lookout for these specialized videos coming to the channel very, very soon.